I just wanted to make a link with Keivan, right? First thing, companies do not talk about growth or profitability or sustainability. They talk about one single thing, which is SPG, Sustainable Profitable Growth, okay? That has implications on different areas. First, we all know the return on assets, okay? We know that. That's a classical KPI, which is based on financial assets, and it's called return on assets. But there are other KPIs, which is called RONC, return on natural capital, return on human resources capital. There are different types of returns, and all of them together make what we call SPG, Sustainable Profitable Growth. And one example, which is weird, and how to connect with the human aspect of technology and how to build from Gemba into technology, is one big, I wouldn't say the name, of course, but one big aircraft manufacturer. So you have to choose, right? But only two big ones, right? But I'm not saying which one. They have a real focus on what they call digitization, right? The applications of digital technology in the manufacturing environment. But what they do is what they call the human-centric approach. That means we go to the Gemba, take a look at what the operator is doing, and then see how digital technologies can help him in doing his or her job in a better way. And that's a classical example of merging the two worlds. The technology on one side, lean, green, whatever on the other side, have to work together. So it's not that they're independent silos, they work together to get the best out of technology. Otherwise, we just have a bunch of very expensive toys. If we don't know how to use technology, we have lots of technology, very expensive there, but no real result, okay? So most of the examples I'm going to give you, send to you, are based on this approach. Not all of them, right? But many of those are based on this approach. So we will start with the first one, intelligent sensors. What will you use intelligent sensors for? Many things, right? First, what does intelligent mean? Okay, that's one thing, right? In this case, what we're talking about is sensors that do not have to be continuously transmitting information, so using bandwidth. And if you're not continuously transmitting information, you don't have to store it. So you're saving storage space, which seems ridiculous. No, it's not. If you have, how many sensors do you think a factory has? 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 10,000 sensors? If all of those are transmitting continuously, you need a huge amount of bandwidth and a huge amount of storage. So you have to reduce that in order to be, well, not really intelligent, but let's call them smart, okay? What do they have? They have their own algorithms built in to learn what the normal conditions are. So this is normal condition, I'm not saying anything. Something has changed. Saying something. That saying something might be reduce the speed of the line, or might be just take a look at the shift supervisor so that he can act or she can act. Okay? So this type of intelligent sensors, for example, in this case, I'm also trying to bring cases from different industries. Traditionally, each industry has been quite centered on itself, right? So you see the other competitor you have, and you see what you try to match what he's doing, and then you're missing the gorilla around there, which is passing you that way and that way, because you're focusing on what, I mean, if I'm, let's say, a dairy producer, I'm focusing on what the other dairy producers are doing, but I don't take into account what the aerospace is doing, and that's a huge waste, because there's a lot of people investing a lot in how to solve problems. Thing is, I'm pretty sure they're out of your segment. Well, the probability is high, okay, in this case. So what I'll try to do is bring examples from other segments that could fit into the agri-food. What will you use intelligent sensors for? Monitoring the maturity of crops, for example. So I collect at the best possible moment for future life quality and productivity. That's one thing. It's been done, so no big deal around it. Would I use them for this out-of-date problem if I include a sensor in the package that tells me exactly if the food is in a good or not situation? I could save all that. Because it's not that it's 10 days, because God has come down and has told us it's 10 days. It's because the food has its own process. So if I can monitor that, that's one thing I could use it. I could use it also in the production lines, instead, for example, in bottling, to do unconditioned maintenance, so that they're telling me whether the line is performing well or performance is being degrading a little bit just before we have catastrophic failure. So we act on maintenance before we have the real problem. That's another thing. You can use those. I mean, you can use them for many things, right? Of course, I'm only here talking about examples I know of. So it's done by our company, but there are many others, of course. Okay, sure. But this is, I mean, I'm only authorized to talk about my company, not what other companies are doing, right? So this is one example of applying intelligent sensors. What do they have? I mean, they're connected in a Wi-Fi. You don't have to rely on external suppliers. The hub can act as an analytics integrator, so you have all the analytics there. You don't need anything else. It's quite easy. And most of it is plug and play. So I need to check, I don't know, vibrations, sounds, temperature, pressure, whatever. I put the sensor there and that's it. I don't have to drill in, I don't have to rewire everything, so it's done. So that's one of the things to make technology available to any company. How much does it cost? Do you have an idea? No, of course, $30. $30 per sensor, that's nothing. In a factory. Of course, it's not $30 per package in packaging food, right? But in a factory, that's nothing. Okay, that's one thing. Second example, connectivity. Where would you connect? One of the cases, in this case, is the connected vest. A vest, working suit, connected, so that you can monitor the operator, the hardness of the work for him, and the conditions he's working. And all that is connected. So you can monitor hardness of all your operators, of course, not just for monitoring sake, but to improve the hardness of the operators, the hardness of their job. So you can reduce the hardness, you can prevent health problems, and you can prevent accidents also. This is one example, but there are many others in connectivity. Okay? I just wanted to highlight some of those, right? I don't want to go into a whole of detail in each of those. Machine learning. Well, that's something that's deep learning and Watson technologies and all that stuff. You probably know that you can hire machine learning capabilities and artificial intelligence capabilities on the web. You can hire it. You don't need your mainframes to support that. For examples, if you get all the data from your manufacturing environment, and then you can do an analysis on that. In this case, this was done for trains. Say, okay, what do trains have to do with food processing? Well, take a look at a bottling line or a food processing line. It's a very expensive line, highly automated, high volumes, very fast. Well, similar in some cases to what a train needs in terms of maintenance. 1 hour line has stopped, 50,000 bottles, you stop producing and selling again. It's not a problem of coming back with half of your hand cut. It's you're losing the sales of 50,000 bottles, for example. Okay? So if I am able to track condition of my whole machine, taking into account intelligent sensors, standard machine SCADA, everything together, put all that together, run some analytics on that, and prevent failure. And not only prevent failure, but also how can we operate in the most efficient way from the energy point of view, labor point of view, waste point of view. That's a lot. And you can not only increase your profitability, but also your sustainability, because you're operating in the optimum conditions from energy, waste, emissions, and many other things, right? One thing, you all probably know that SPG, sustainable profitable growth, comes from two sources, right? You have to create value and you have to capture value, right? You create value, you don't capture it, you're done. You're a quirk, right? You capture value, you're a bloody capitalist that do nothing, right? Because you're only capturing value. So you have to balance how you create value and how you capture value. Capturing value allows you to be more profitable. Creating value allows you to be more sustainable. So all these technologies are aimed at both of those. Some of them might have a focus on sustainability, so creating value. Some of them in capturing value, so profitability. But it's the right combination of both that will drive your SPG. Otherwise, you would only work in one way. I mean, if you create value, not capture it, you're done. Okay? Broken. Done. There are many cases of people creating value and not being able to capture it, so they have disappeared, basically. In this case, you're trying to create value. Because you're not capturing it, but you're creating it by being more efficient in the way you operate your machines and the way you maintain your machines. And I can tell you, and you will probably know, huge, complex machines are difficult to manage, maintain, and operate. They're not so easy. You need the help. Same thing with the problem or challenge, I prefer to put it that way, in the food supply chain. You have seen the demand variation amplification problem. One of the things is, if I could predict better what customers would buy next day, I would save a lot. That's correct, okay? Do you think it can be done? Yes, it can. Right now, if you use the right amount of machine learning and artificial intelligence, you can predict to a very high degree of accuracy what's going to be bought the next day, the next 2 days, and the next 3 days. So again, if we mix both worlds, technology, management, and organization and operations, you can get the best out of it. You reduce your lead times, great. So I only have to predict 2 days ahead, not 3 days ahead or 4 days ahead. I'm working on reducing the lead time, fine, so I can predict better. And then I would get less waste. Okay, that's one example of how would you apply machine learning. Do you know that some pharmaceutical companies are using social media to predict how much of each different pill will be bought in the next week? They're using social media for that as an input. Okay? How? I don't know really. I know some, I have some glimpses, right? But it's quite a confidential work, so I have access to just bits and pieces of it. But they're using it. Okay? Again, if you can use that, you will save a lot of money and you create value. Cybersecurity, forget about it. Industrial information systems, that's my favorite one, right? Everyone wants to turn digital. They don't even have an MES. They don't even have a recipe management system. But I want to turn digital. Okay, so first thing, please have an operating technology, what is called OT, in place. How do you convey basic recipe, EBR data to every workstation? How you track all the production data? How you analyze all that in a historian? You need that before you go virtual, cybersecurity, or whatever. If you don't have basic machine control, forget about it, right? So this is one, that's why I'm saying it's my favorite, because many people say, no, I want to go digital. Digital transformation is critical for me. Yeah, fine. Your MES? No, I don't. Okay, fine. So we should start there, right? So you have to start to walk before you run. And this is walking. Basic walking. Simulation. Another different application of how you use technology in these ways to capture value, not create value. Why do you use simulation? Because I want to make sure that my factory is configured in such a way that I have the less possible waste. I have no extra capacity, I have no extra manpower, and I have no extra energy consumption, because I'm simulating all the possible what-if scenarios. What if my mix changes? And instead of, as an example I usually use, classical dairy product, I have it with different strawberry flavor, banana flavor. What if the mix changes? What happens to my factory? Well, the bottleneck works. It moves the bottleneck. It moves the resources you need. It moves the energy you need. If you don't have an adequate factory simulation, and it's not easy, by the way, if you try to do it by hand, good luck. You will never get it. Never. Impossible. A very simple line, sure. Real life, no way. No way with all the blocking you have. You have different operators that have training and access to different, and are certified for different processes. Then you mix them around. Then you have all the logistic resources. Then you have many things around there. Unless you're able to simulate how it operates, you will never get out of it. And I'm talking about, I would say, a big factory. Go one step before that and talk about the possibilities of simulation in the first part of the value chain. How you plant your seeds, how you grow your crops, how you collect your crops. Using simulation with all the potential variation in your processes will help you in capturing, again, not creating in this case, but capturing more value out of your economic system. Well, augmented operator, that's quite clear. How do I help my people do their job in a better way? That's operator-centric. You can use, again, the health, or you can use any other area. How do I help my maintenance people do their job best? Well, I have augmented reality. They just put on their glasses, go there. The instruction highlights what you have to change, how you have to do it, you do it. So it's easy for the people. You don't need years of training for someone to do their job in a proper way. Okay? Because first, you have your instructions there. Of course, I could always mess up with instructions, but I do have remote support for that. So that's something specifically in the maintenance area of complex factories in the agri-food industry that would help a lot. Specifically in maintenance, not saying probably normal operating procedures. Okay? Virtual reality, for me, would have two significant applications. First, training. You can train the operators outside the real life, outside the real working line, so they don't mess up with it. So that the operator is trained fully in virtual reality, and when he comes to real life, he knows his job. Doesn't have to learn on real life. So he can be trained anywhere in the world before getting to the real production line. That's one thing. Second thing, you can design that line virtual. See all the possible constraints you might have with product movement, operator movement, access, many other things before you actually build the line, so you don't have to embark in very costly changes during manufacturing of that line or even while commissioning that line. So you would save a lot of money. Again, you will not be creating value, you will be capturing value. Digitization, what is the easiest way to digitize something? Quality control, done by the operator in this case, although quality is not, in this case, wouldn't be free, but you try to make it less costly. If you have a simple application in your tablet that allows you to capture all the data of the product, that gives you all the instructions, that tells you what you have to do, that allows you to take photographs and write deviations and then send it to the server, you're saving a lot of money. That's one example. Another example would be, I don't know, just to have all these work instructions there, maintenance instructions, everything. If you don't have to rely on how you deploy the papers, because you said one thing, Keivan, before, that there was a problem in the specs of the meat, because it was not correctly translated. If you can do it without the need of that, you would save a lot of problems, basically. It's not the paper itself, although, well, I have a friend that works in a paper company. He says that we have to use a lot of paper, right? Because this way he will still feed his family, right? But in reality, what he says is that the more paper you use, the more trees they're forced to plant. So he insists on using paper is not that bad. Not that bad, okay? And the use of recycled paper is worse. That's what he's saying, right? But again, I don't want to get into that controversy. The thing is, it's not a problem of paper it's for the sake of paper. It's the problem of making easy flow of the information so that no one has to touch the information, or at least touch it with the minimum potential disruptions of that information. Advanced automation, we'll know that. We have always, all of us have seen the processing line in food. It's advanced automation with all the sensors and all that stuff. So I don't want to get into that because it's quite common in this industry and it's not a different thing. But advanced robotics is something different. Because in the end of line, when you're packaging, you usually have humans doing that. And the humans, they are doing two different things. Sometimes they're fixing problems, which is fine. Sometimes they're just doing that once and again for 480 minutes a day. Well, a little bit less with breaks, right? So it's kind of a alienating job you have there. Of course, it's always for a pay, which is fine. But I think, and as Keivan said before, and I totally agree with that, it's not a matter of less people. It's a matter of selling more, producing more, and creating, in this case, it's creating more value. I don't want people in my factory doing a dull job, doing a job that an autonomous robot can do easily, like pick and place, putting labels. That can be done easily. I don't want anyone doing that. I want people focusing on improving the way the machine works, on improving the conditions. I want people that have the conditions to create value. And in reality, most dull activities do not create value. I mean, not from the manpower point of view. Can you imagine yourselves 8 hours a day putting boxes into bigger boxes? 8 hours a day for the next 5,000 days of your life? Do you want that to happen to your children? No way. This is the, I mean, one of the things, and one of the main criticalities regarding automation and robotics is that it takes employment. But it's not true. it increases unemployment if you're someone who's not focused on creating value, only on capturing value. But if you're focused on creating value, then this human resources free increases your ability to create value, which of course you can capture with automated systems. Fine, no problem. So although I know there is an issue there with automation and robotics, I know that's an issue, right? I have seen other companies, and can be visited around here, that have used robots and automation to more than triple their production with the same amount or a little bit more people, but not triple people. So they've created a lot more value without destroying employment. But of course, we will always have people destroying employment, because not everyone is focused on creating value. Most of them are focused just on capturing value. But this thing is something that is quite significant from my point of view. Advanced manufacturing techniques, well, this is quite weird. It comes from a different sector, absolutely, completely different, which is health in this case, right? How can you build devices that are completely customized to your body? It's difficult to do that in a mass production line. You agree with that? Quite difficult. I mean, I'm this way, he's that way, he's the other way. So it's quite difficult. But if I can take a 3D scan of whatever is happening in your body, and I can print it using advanced manufacturing techniques that is absolutely customized to your needs, how would you apply that in your case? Well, difficult. Again, only, as I said before, for spare parts. If you're in a remote location and it's difficult for you to get access to spare parts or whatever, you can have your AM machine, get the drawings delivered, get the basic materials delivered, which is easier, and then get the parts done for yourself. And advanced materials, I've been talking about that before, so I don't want to get into more details with that. We've been talking about that. I would just like to put some examples. I would use an animated thing regarding specific food industry applications. Should be around here somewhere. I will try and take a look at 3 different examples. One, smart factory, another one, predictive maintenance, and cobots and collaborative machines, right? In your environment, specifically. Should work, does work. First example, process control. You can use the smart factory technologies to improve your process control. Being able to work at the optimized conditions. That's quite clear. I mean, reduce consumption, reduce energy, improve performance. Easy. Capture value, generating.
While it is impossible to estimate the number of devices that will be connected in the years to come, we do know that the Internet of Things is a huge opportunity that will concern all industries. The scope of connectivity is no longer limited to domestic and personal objects, but is spreading to include industrial machines. In the industrial world, cars, aircraft, trains, medical devices and manufacturing robots, etc., could give access to their data, opening the way for the creation of new applications and revenue streams. In this context, the Internet of Things becomes the Internet of Machines. With exponential connectivity and data growth, industrial players will have to face new big data-related challenges, namely technological choices, cost optimization, safety and security issues, as well as data mining and analytics, etc. All industries are being disrupted by this connectivity. The key to success in exploiting the potential of machine-driven big data is to combine technology, usage, and business models. ViewForge is the all-terrain offer designed to create value from machine...
Okay, forget about the commercial part of it. I mean, I'm not interested in the commercial part of it, okay? And it comes saying how good we are at doing that and that and that and that. The important thing is the real challenge you have. And the challenge you will have in the next 10 years with all these machines, all these sensors, everything connected, you do have a challenge there. And the moment you start tracking every single product you produce, you will have a real challenge there. How to track and trace each individual product you're doing. Because I don't know if you know about serialization, which is something more in the pharma, that you will not be able to sell drugs in 2017 if you haven't changed your production means to be able to identify each individual box. And it's not a problem of printing something in the box. It's a problem of tracing that box to your supplier and to all the production process until you get that box. That's one thing. The other thing is anti-counterfeiting. How do you reduce fake drugs? And how you are sure when you buy ibuprofen or whatever that they're not giving you chalk? Of course, you might think this problem is ridiculous. Well, it is here. But in many countries, counterfeiting is a very common practice. So you have to reduce that. So you have to be able to track and trace every single box you do to make sure that the guy that is buying your drug is buying what he's expected to buy. And something similar will come to your world. How long? Don't know. Might be 3 years, might be 30, I don't know. But it will probably be in the lifespan of all of us. And that will mean we have a challenge. If we have to track and trace every single thing we do, either at the unit, okay, forget about the unit, pack level, that's a huge amount of information we have to be able to deal with. Okay, we have to be prepared for that. I'll show something else. Should be around here. Okay. Well, that's exactly the same. Forget about it. We have seen that. Just wanted to show an example. Well, that's in your, okay? How are you able to, do you know that these guys have AGVs? You know what an AGV is? Automated Guided Vehicle, okay? They work alone on the factory. They receive instructions from the MES, which receive the instruction from SAP. And this MES tells the guy, not the guy in this case, the AGV, go there, pick that, take it there, and release it. And it works autonomously. Absolutely autonomously. You don't need to get anyone controlling what they do because they do the right thing. And they have accuracy of 3 millimeters of where they get to. So it's more than enough to place a pallet on that. More than enough. Okay? So that's one example of how you use this technology. You're not focused on low value added activities like go there, pick that and put it there. I mean, it's something an AGV can do, a robot can do. You focus your people on doing high value added activities and you obtain and create more value out of that. You don't create value by picking and placing. You create value when you think. When you apply your thinking to what you're doing. Oh, it works like this. Fine, I don't have to change it. Another example, predictive maintenance. I told that before, so I don't want to get into a lot of details there. You have all the information there, no big thing. It's fast. That's an example. If you take a look at classical KPIs in maintenance and compare to world-class indicators, you have many things to capture value. That. All of those are focused on capturing value. Okay, this is average and world-class indicators regarding how many hours do I have to do, what's the overtime, what's the return on investment in the inventory, and so on. So this is applicable to any company that has some machinery, of course, right? But most of your companies do have machinery. And the more complex the equipment is, the more challenge you have in applying these type of things, right? Those are the classical benefits, and this is not commercial, right? This is just taking a scan at the market, similar to what Keivan's company has done, and then say, what's the average of what companies do and what they obtain when they start with this? It's not that we do it, okay? In fact, it's minor in our case. But you can see that you capture a lot of value and you create some value, okay? Well, that's another example which is not applicable. There should be some video around here, so I just wanted to check. You know how these things work. I mean, these are robots, as I told you before, that have to work with humans because they complement each other. So they have to have some sensors to know that they're near you, so they don't bite you, crush you, or harm you. Weird thing is, I was in a demonstration of one of these robots. I won't mention the maker, right? But he said, no, I mean, it's absolutely safe. You can put your hand there and in the joint, right? So it will not crush your hand. Okay, do it. And I just saw that the guy was not really confident with that. They say, okay, but it's a product. You should be confident with that, right? You can do it. No, you do it. It was like, I'm not absolutely confident, right? And in the end, he was, no. But he did it. And of course, the robot stopped, of course. I mean, it's simple. There's a sensor. The moment it senses there's something there, it stops. So it's simple, right? But that's the way you have to work with them. It's not they replace your work. They replace part of your work, and then you assign again time of the human for value-creating activities, not destroying value. In the end, what I just wanted to give you is a glimpse of how technology can be applied in different areas. How you apply in sensors, in IoT, automation, simulation, or whatever. The challenge lies in identifying where these technologies will help in your sustainable, profitable growth. That's your challenge. Of course, there are many companies that could help you in that. Mine is one of them. But it's not that thing. I mean, the thing is how these different technological improvements will help creating sustainable, profitable growth for my company. And in which time frame? Sometimes are, you said, low-hanging fruits. Some are not. It's your role to define where and how. Okay? But what is true is that you have all these technologies. All of those are mature enough. I mean, I'm not thinking of Star Trek. Okay? This is not Star Wars. This is not something that is not there. It's there. You can use it. Challenge? What's the profit? In SPG terms. As you said before, return on investment, or return on assets, or returning on natural assets. I'm really worried about CO2 emissions, so I have to see the impact there. I'm worried about cost. I'm worried about my human nature of my business, or the social impact my business has. So one thing is that you will never come back to the old days when you did have only profitable growth. Now you need sustainable profitable growth, and that includes social impact of your business. And you have to measure that and capture that. How will this help you? Up to you, not mine. It's your problem, not mine. Mine is to give you what you have to choose, the impact, and then you decide. That's it. If there's any question, I would be glad to answer, if I can, of course. It doesn't mean that I can. No questions? Was that clear or boring? Because it could have been boring. Clear? Okay.
Very exciting, right?
I mean, most companies are going that way. And as we talked before, it will be the bigger companies that will drive the smaller companies in their way, probably. Well.
Question. I think you work with food and non-food companies, right?
Yeah.
And how do you compare food industry with manufacturing and service industry generally?
It's impossible to compare because in different fields, in some fields, food manufacturing is quite advanced. In other fields, they are quite lagging. Where are they quite good? Quite good at demand planning, for example, usually. Automating most processes, quite good. The use of digital information in the factory, not so good. And it depends. I mean, there's not a single indicator saying these ones are better, these ones are worse. In some things, food industry is quite advanced. But not all food industry. You see huge differences between big manufacturers and SMEs. You go to Danone, Dam, all these type of General Mills, okay, they're quite advanced. You go to the classical producer, small one, there's nothing. Okay. Abajo.
I don't know if small companies they are going to be able to apply these technologies, or this is not going to be able for them.
Do you think you will need to breathe in 10 years? Breathe, take air?
I think so.
Same.
But are they going to be able to do it? They have enough possibilities, money and all that?
If they don't, they're out.
Okay.
I mean, technology is pervasive. The moment the big players in your segment start using it, you cannot say, I'm not using it. You will have to find your way, which probably means we will get together, we will collaborate, we will create a cluster, whatever. I don't know, I don't have the right answer. I'm sorry for that. But I'm sure they will have to do it. Because the bigger ones will tell them. I mean, this is the way it's going. You either go with the stream or you stay out of the stream and then you're done. My perception again, eh?
That's why maybe many companies are going to disappear.
Not necessarily. They can find innovative ways to do that. I mean, innovation is not only creating new things. Innovation is applying old things to new environments. So probably, I mean, when you say you are an innovator, is that you're developing R&D in the products? Not necessarily. You can innovate in the way you organize, you can innovate in the way you collaborate, in the way you network with your suppliers, your peers, and your customers. So you probably will have to innovate there. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on this fear of the innovation that everybody has. Like somewhere I found some texts from the 1700s, which were just beautiful. Like this time when all the automation in the machines was starting, and they had like this Industrial Revolution, they were seeing all these machines that when they were making like the clothing by hand, suddenly there was a machine that did that automatically, and it worked like 100 times faster than a person. So there were some texts by them talking about like by the year 2000 we are forecasting that people will work like 20 hours per month. And that will be really bad for the society because everybody will be like with nothing to do, and they will be like going themselves into like vicious behavior and all the time doing like bad things because they will be bored and so on, and nothing further from truth, right? No. We are working even more than those people. We are doing much more things. So probably that is not a concern. Something that does concern me here a little bit in the field of agribusiness is this with the technology, this optimization that is being taking place in which products you want to grow because they are profitable, and which ones you don't really want to grow. So for me, this innovation is not going hand in hand with sustainability, but sometimes it's going a bit against it. If we define sustainability as taking care of the environment, keeping like the earth as it is and all that, there was like some potato industry, institute in Peru, I think, and they did this study where at the beginning of this century of the 1900s, there were like 2,000 different kind of potatoes being grown in the world, and nowadays there is like 30. So you have lost like 90% of your potatoes because they are not profitable. And those potatoes, they probably could have like much more variety. Like they could be resilient to different kind of viruses that we can research on and things like that. But they don't exist anymore. They just left the history of humanity, and that's it, no?
Okay.
So that would be a concern.
I understand that's a concern, right? And good thing about it is, do you know who are the biggest investors in industry? I mean, there are three biggest investors. No. Even before that. I mean, I'm not saying Monsanto or all these. I'm saying who is placing the money on those companies. Basically, it's BlackRock, all these great funding companies, right? Financial companies. I mean, that has an upside and a downside. Upside, they will not invest in a company that is not socially acceptable, ever. They might have their own, but it's obvious they don't want problems, okay? So, of course this has happened in the future, but now it's changing the last 10 to 15 years. So the moment big investors are taking control of the board of directors, they want to be socially acceptable. So they need that the companies invest not only in profitable growth, but sustainable growth. Otherwise, they will not put a penny in that company. So that's happened in the past, sure. Will some? Of course, there will be some in the future, but the amount of that problem is reducing because people do not want to invest in corporates that are not socially responsible, full stop. And if they have any problem from the social, human, or environmental point of view, they challenge and they say, I will retire my money from there. So you better fix your problem. That's something that's happening. I mean, I'm not saying it's the holy grail of it, okay? But it's happening.
I have a question.
You always have a question. It's fine.
I know. But no, it's also my role is to connect the main topic of this seminar with your presentations. In this case, it's about, you have talked about sustainable, profitable growth. That is like an indicator of some major objective for companies. but also for value chains. But also, I think it's clear, in the food industry, it's clear we have a focal operator that is the retailers, basically.
Yeah.
And then I think they know that for the sustainable, profitable growth, it's very important, the supply chain. My feeling is that there are many opportunities of Industry 4.0 solutions about improving the supply chain management. Everybody knows that supply chain management is very important and is evolving. But I think for making real this type of connectivity, of including simulation, I think it's very important. And two questions. Do you agree about this potential? And the second question is, your experience right now with customers is that really sometimes the approach is working with extended organization, working or not?
Well, first question, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, of course, I mean, you have to work on the whole value chain. Otherwise, you're dead. I mean, there are many supermarkets in the UK that you go there and you have different photographs saying this fish is English fish. It has been captured here, grown here, and it's local. Like saying that it is important not only to sell fish, but also that it's local and that it gives employment to local people, right? You also have it there, right? So it's, I mean, or that it has been done with no child labor or whatever. I mean, many things there, right? So, but you have to be aware of the whole value chain. If you're just a retailer and you don't focus on who's producing that, of course, that will come, because it's impossible to improve the whole value chain if you don't take a look at it. First thing. So, second thing, I would say connectivity and data analysis are the key there. Connectivity of different systems, which is not easy, which allows for cybersecurity, because if you have just a small leak in the whole value chain, then the hacker gets in through the whole value chain. So, cybersecurity will be a major topic in that. You cannot trust someone who is connected to you if he's not secure. So that will be one of the key problems for this connectivity issue, right? And the third thing, are they doing it? Some, to a certain extent, because of these connectivity problems. For example, if you work in defense, no way. You have to work in their servers because there's security problems. So this is, although it's, I mean, there are two major topics. One is cybersecurity, the other is having standard protocols. Okay, very basic things that have to be worked before you go to the nice thing, like we are all connected, free, happy, the age of Aquarius and all that stuff, right? Before getting to the age of Aquarius, you have to have the age of policemen here, like cybersecurity. Please check my connections, please check my communications. Otherwise, I cannot go to the age of Aquarius. Okay? Okay, that's it. So we're 20 minutes ahead of time, so excellent, I assume, for everyone. Okay? Thanks.